I'm 75 years old, and these days my mornings start slowly. I sit by the kitchen window with my coffee, watching the light crawl across the counter. The house creaks in a familiar way, and sometimes I catch myself listening for a voice that hasn't been here in years. There's a stillness now that I never used to have time to notice. I worked hard to build this quiet life, thinking it was the reward for everything I'd done. But what I've come to understand, too late, is that all the success in the world doesn't fill the silence once everyone you love has gone. When I was younger, I thought I had it figured out. I grew up in a small town where men were measured by what they achieved, not how they felt. My father worked in a factory, never missed a day, and rarely smiled. I wanted more than that. I wanted to make something of myself. So when I got my first job in the city, I promised I'd outwork everyone, and I did. I climbed ladders, took promotions, made the kind of money my parents couldn't imagine. People respected me. That mattered to me then. Being the man others pointed to when they said, "He's really made it." I don't think I ever paused long enough to ask, "Made it where?" I married young. Her name was Laura. She had a laugh that made other people laugh. She used to tell me, "You work too much." And I'd smile and say, "I'm doing it for us." And maybe I believed it. We had 2 children, a son and a daughter. I told myself I was building them a future, the kind of future where they wouldn't have to worry about money like we did growing up. The thing about working all the time is that it starts small. You stay late once or twice, you miss one dinner, then one weekend. You promise to make it up next time. But the next time has a way of not arriving. There's always another project, another chance to prove yourself. I remember one summer I was supposed to take the kids camping. My son was 10, my daughter 7. I got called into an emergency meeting the night before. I told them we'd go the next weekend. That weekend never came. I don't even remember what the meeting was about, but I still remember the look on their faces when I said we had to postpone. I used to think sacrifices were a sign of strength, that being busy meant being important. I wore exhaustion like a medal. Even when I was home, I wasn't really there. My mind was always somewhere else, planning, worrying, running numbers in my head. I'd nod along while my wife talked about her day, barely listening. There's a special kind of arrogance in assuming the people who love you will always wait. Laura stopped insisting after a while. She learned that maybe later meant probably not. The kids grew up used to my absence. Birthdays blurred together. I was always there for the pictures, rarely for the moments that mattered. I kept telling myself I'd slow down once I reached the next milestone. But milestones have a funny way of multiplying. Every time I met one, another appeared just beyond it. I remember one winter evening years ago when my father called. He wasn't well. He wanted to see me. I told him I'd visit as soon as I closed a deal I'd been working on for months. He died before I made it. I flew home for the funeral, stood beside his coffin, and thought about all the times I'd judged him for being small-minded, unambitious. He might not have had much, but he always came to my baseball games. He always listened when I talked. It took me decades to realize he'd been the richer man. By the time I finally retired, I had everything I thought I wanted. A big house, awards on the wall, a savings account solid enough to quiet every old fear. But the company moved on without me. The phone calls faded. The invitations slowed. The world forgets you faster than you'd expect. The day I cleared out my office, I felt like a ghost watching someone else's life end quietly in a box marked personal belongings. At home, the silence was uncomfortable. Laura had her routines, her friends, her garden. She didn't need me the way she once did, and I realized with a kind of dull shock that I didn't really know her anymore. We had lived parallel lives under the same roof. One afternoon, she said, I used to wait for you to have time for us, and then I just stopped waiting. There was no anger in her voice, just truth. That's the part that hurt the most. She wasn't blaming me anymore. She had already let go. She passed away 3 years ago. Peacefully, they said. She'd been ill for a while, and I stayed by her side near the end, reading to her from books we used to share when we were first married. I remember holding her hand, feeling the thinness of her skin, and thinking how strange it was that after all the years of chasing everything, I'd trade all of it, every accomplishment, for one more ordinary day with her when she was young and smiling and tired of telling me to come to bed. After she was gone, the house became heavy with memory. I looked through old photographs, trying to recognize the faces I'd been too busy to really know. My son lives across the country now. We talk a few times a year. He's successful like me, too busy to visit. My daughter calls more often. She says she worries about me being alone, but she's got her own life, her own kids. I can hear in her voice that she's tired sometimes. I try not to tell her to slow down. It's not my place to give advice I never took myself. I go for walks in the mornings. I pass families with strollers, couples holding hands, people glued to their phones. I see bits of myself in them. The rush, the eagerness to be more, to have more. It's not that ambition is bad. Life pushes you to build, to achieve. But there's a cost when you mistake achievement for meaning. No one tells you the trophies don't talk back to you at night. No one prepares you for the day you wake up and realize every later you promised someone has run out. Looking back, I don't think I was an unkind man. I just didn't understand what mattered. I believed the world's definition of success is status, recognition, respect. I thought if I could just get a little further ahead, I'd finally feel safe, content. But happiness isn't waiting at the end of accomplishment. It lives in the small, unremarkable moments that pass while you're too busy to notice. Sometimes people tell me I should be proud of what I achieved. And in a way, I am. I provided for my family. I kept a roof over their heads. But I also missed entire chapters of their lives. There are whole years I can't recall because they were filled with work days that all looked the same. No meeting, no deal, no promotion ever gave me the warmth I feel when I dream about sitting at the dinner table, hearing my daughter laugh. At 75, you start measuring life in quiet ways, in how long the sunlight stays on the floor, in how often your children call, in how heavy an empty chair feels. Success doesn't visit you then. It doesn't comfort you. It doesn't hold your hand. The things that matter most are the ones you can't buy or prove. I don't have a grand lesson to give you. Just this: don't mistake being busy for being alive. I used to believe I was building a future, but all I did was trade pieces of my present away. If you have someone who loves you, sit with them, even if there's work to do, even if it feels pointless. Because one day you'll look up and the work will still be there, but the people won't be. I'm not angry at the life I lived, just tired from it. I have enough time now, more than I ever allowed myself before. And sometimes I sit and wonder what I would have done differently if I'd known how short it really is. Maybe I would have stayed home that weekend. Maybe I would have answered my father's call. Maybe I would have told Laura sooner how much she meant to me, instead of assuming she already knew. If you're listening to this and you're somewhere in the middle of your life, rushing from one obligation to another, pause just for a moment. Look around you. The things you think can wait might be the very things that make all the rest matter. I'm 75, and for the first time, I understand that success is a story other people tell about you. Happiness is something only you can feel quietly in the company of those you love. And once that company is gone, even the brightest story loses its meaning. That's all I really wanted to say.